Hello, my amazing kindergarten artists. Welcome to our 6th week of virtual learning. Oh my gosh, I already need to put up 2 hands in order to make my 6th this week. Our 6th week already. So, last week we started a new art project. Think in your head right now if you can remember what that art project was. And if you can't, that's okay. I have it right here ready for us to take a look again. So yes, last week we started our Sarape inspired lion blankets, and we talked all about 8 different lines. We even practiced those lines a lot. We practiced them during our live lessons. We practiced them in Seesaw. Maybe you even did some individual practicing, which is awesome, my artists. And then you put it on your actual artwork. So today we are going to be finishing up our Sarape lion blankets. Now, before we find out what art materials we might need to finish our project, we have to read our learning targets again. So I have those here as well. Let's start again with our first one. Here I go first. Remember, you repeat it after me. I can draw 8 different lines. Now remember, that's what we practiced a lot last week, and you should have that one done. So if you have your 8 lines drawn, go ahead, give yourself a check. We have that done. All right, but what about our second one? Ooh, some of us might need to finish the second one, so let's read it together as well. I can apply good coloring to my artwork. So last week, we started talking about what good coloring is and what it looks like. We're going to be reviewing that again today, my artists, because remember, we always want to be thinking about good coloring and our 3 good coloring rules. Now, before I give us a quick reminder of what those 3 rules are, though, let's go take a look at what art materials we need to finish our line blankets. So, the only 2 things you friends actually will need in order to finish up your art project today are your blue art folder, which should have your started art project, tucked safely inside for us to finish today. And the second thing is the coloring tools that you started your art project with. I started mine with crayon, so I'm going to continue mine with crayon. But if you use something else like markers, colored pencils, or maybe even potentially paint, please find those art materials to finish your project. Don't use the same as me. Use the same as what you started your art project with last week. So, if you need to, you can pause the video here and go grab your art supplies, but I am ready to go, my artist, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my folder and pull out that paper I started last week, and I'm also going to take out these strings that were in there as well, because we need those to help finish up our blankets today. Everything else, though, can stay right inside of my folder, so I'm going to close that back up and set my art folder off to the side. Alrighty, my artist, so I'm looking at my example right now. And I noticed I started some good coloring, but I have not quite finished my good coloring yet. That is where I need to start today, my friends. Now, if you are done with your great coloring, then that is fabulous. And if you aren't done, that is okay as well, my friends. I'm going to review our 3 good coloring rules real quickly, and then I'm going to finish up my coloring so you can see how your line blanket should look if you have done your 3 good coloring rules. So our first rule, my artists, I believe is, I need to stay inside of my lines. And luckily I have my lines right here already on my blanket, so I don't want to scribble over them. I want to stay inside of them the best that I can. The second rule that I was thinking of, if I have edges of my paper, I need to make sure that my colors go all the way to those edges. We don't want to leave any white spots on those edges. Ooh, and speaking of white spots, artists, my third good coloring rule is that I go back and I fill in up any large white spaces. So I have this whole white space over here that's still left. I even have some kind of smaller ones. I'll focus on those big ones first and really try to fill in those bigger spots with my good coloring first. And then maybe if I'm really being picky, I might go back over into some of those smaller white spaces as well to make it my best coloring. Not just good coloring, but my best coloring. All right, artists, we're going to take a peek at how I did in a moment here as I'm finishing up my first color for this week. I'm going back, filling in some of those white spaces that I can still see. And let's take a look, artists. I think I did a pretty good job. Like I said, I could still go back and fill in a few more white spaces, but I followed our 3 good coloring rules. Remember, 1, stay inside of our lines. 2, color all the way to the edges of our paper, and 3, go back and fill in any large white spaces. With these 3 rules right now, artists, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish up my line blanket really quickly. It'll look very quick on your screen so I can get caught up with those friends that are all done coloring. If you are not done with all of your coloring and you need to pause the video here, please go ahead and do so now, artists. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and speed up my coloring so I can catch up to friends that are ready for our next step. Here I go. Here is my line blanket. I've colored everything in with the colors that I want, because remember, you don't have to do the same colors as me. You get to pick what colors you add to your artwork. So if you want to do rainbow like me, you can, or if there's other colors that you want to use, please use them. I want you to make your artwork look the way that you want it with your colors. So I'm all done coloring now. Again, I followed those 3 good coloring rules. I don't see any large white spaces on my paper, which tells me, yep, I am done with this step and I am ready for my last step today, my artists. So I'm going to put my crayons away for a moment and I'm going to get out this nice big bundle of string. And if you notice, my artists, the ends are nice and loose, and in the middle there is a knot. Now, please don't do this. Don't pull on the ends to make the knot tight, because then you won't be able to untie it. Instead, find that middle knot area where those loops are all tucked in, and using your pincher fingers, your thumb and your pointer finger, you're going to slowly pull them apart. And you should start to see it kind of unfurling like a pretzel. You start to see my pretzel there? Now, if you absolutely cannot get it untied, artists, the best thing to do is to go find an adult, maybe in your learning area or in your home, somebody that can help you untie it. Okay, don't get frustrated. Ask an adult for help. All right. Now, we should have 8 strings, but we're going to start with 1 today, my friends. And I'm going to turn my picture sideways so you can better see those holes that I have at the end there. That's where our strings are going to want to go. But first, we need to do a couple things to them. The first thing I need to do, as you see here, is put my hands on each end of my string. I'm using my 2 pincher fingers again to hold the ends. Now that I have those 2 ends, artists, I'm going to bring those ends together. I'm going to slide them into one hand, that way I can see what's underneath them. So I'm holding those 2 ends with my 1 pincher finger, and below my pincher fingers I can see that there's a loop now, and that's exactly what we need. We are making some loop knots today. So that loop, my friends, is just a little bit too big right now. So watch, I'm going to use my other pincher fingers. I'm going to start up at the top, and I'm going to slide my other hand down that loop until I get a nice small loop. You see my little loop there, friends? I'll hold it really nice and close so you can see it. My small little loop. That's what we need, that tiny little loop. So I'll hold really tight to that loop. My other hand can let go though. So I have that loop, and that loop is the thing that is going to go inside one of our holes. So I'm going to put my loop in, and I'm going to pull it about halfway so it has a loop on one side, and on the other side of my paper there's 2 little tails. The last thing I need to do now, my artist, with my loop knot is take my 2 tails, and using my 2 hands, I'm going to tuck my 2 tails into my loop. So I tuck them in, and using my hand, I pull the 2 tails gently through my loop until it stops. Don't keep pulling after, my friends, because if you keep pulling after it stops, your paper might rip, and we don't want that to happen, okay? So let's practice making our loop a couple times first together with me, and then I'll show you again how to tuck in your tails. So I have 1 piece of string in my hand. Please grab 1 piece of string as well yourself right now. Let's do this together. My pincher fingers are at the ends of my string, and I'm going to bring my pincher fingers together. So you bring your pincher fingers together as well, my friends. Once you have your pincher fingers together, remember, you just need to hold the 2 ends in one hand. So my other hand can let go for a moment, and I'm holding those 2 ends with my 1 hand again. See if you can do that, artists. If you can, and you're still with me, remember then I'll use my other hand to start back up at the top, and I'm going to slide down that loop. You see my loop there? I'm going to slide down it until I get a nice small loop, just like that. Remember, when you get to that small loop, stop. If you fall off the end, oops, I fell off. That's okay. I'll start back again at the top where my pincher fingers are still holding those two tails, and I'll try again. Again, I want to get it to a nice small little loop and stop, okay? So I'll have that little loop and I'm ready to stop. Now, if you need to do that again with me, artists, I'm going to show you one more time again, okay? So I'm going to undo mine right now. And again, if you need to follow along, here we go. I have my one string. My two pincher fingers are holding on to the ends. And I'm going to bring my two ends together now. Once I have my two ends together, one hand can let go. Remember, I'm holding with my other hand. And that hand that's alone now, it's not holding on to anything. It's going to start pushing down that loop. You see my loop again? I'm going to start sliding gently down that loop until I get to that nice small little loop, my friends. There's my small loop. Again, if I fall off the end, oops, not a big problem. It's a very small problem. I'll try again. And I'll slide down my big loop until I get to my little loop. All right, so where does my little loop go again, my friends? Oh, of course, I have still a few more holes that are open. So I'll tuck my loop again into my hole, and look, I've lifted my paper up, my friends. I'll tuck that loop in and I'll pull it all the way out. No, I want to stop about halfway so I can see a loop on one side and my two tails on the other. So if you can, my artists, at this point, tie the loop with me. Here I go. I'm going to take my two tails and tuck them into my loop. Now that I have my tails tucked in, should I pull the loop or should I pull the two tails? And the answer, my friends, is to pull the two tails. Don't only pull one tail, make sure you pull both tails at the same time, my friends. All right, I'm going to show how to do that loop knot again. So I'm bringing my two ends together, sliding down my big loop to a little loop. Once you have that little loop, again, if you need to go back and watch that again, or maybe ask an adult for help with this step, you can. But here I go. I'm going to tuck my tail, or excuse me, not my tail, my loop, silly Miss Greathead, into that hole. My paper is up with my other hand on the back side so I can pull it halfway. Remember, don't pull it all the way. I have a loop and two tails. I'm going to pick up my two tails and tuck them into my loop, making sure that I pull both tails until my loop stops, and then I stop pulling too. So that is how you make a loop knot, my artists. Again, if you need to pause the video and practice, or even go back a little bit in this video and watch how I do it again, you can. This is a step that if you need an adult's help, it is okay for you to ask an adult to help you. So I'm going to finish up my loop knots real quickly, my artists, and then we're going to talk about what we need to do in Seesaw when our art project is all done. Here I go. Well now, my kindergarten friends, will you look at that? I have my line blanket all done, all my beautiful colors, all my amazing lines, even my nice loop knot strings. So now that my artwork is complete, this week, my friends, you will take a picture in either Seesaw or Artsonia to send me your finished artwork. Now, I do want to recommend to my friends, instead of picking up your artwork and holding it in front of you, because then your strings will go all over the place. This week, I would really like to see if you artists could send me a picture of your line blanket flat on a surface, like how I have mine on my table right now. So that way my strings are out in a fun kind of way, and that I can see everything that is going on in the picture nice and easily. So if you have a table or even the floor where you can set your artwork down, and then using a phone or a camera, take a picture from above, that way I'll be able to see everything that you did really nice and easily, my artists. Okay? So I hope you had a lot of fun making your Sarape inspired line blankets. For now, my artists, I'm going to say goodbye. And as always, have fun creating.